Ariel Monroe is quiet, focused, and always keeps to herself. But when 3 football players corner her in the locker room and drench her braids in bleach, they don't just humiliate her. They ignite something they can't control. But this isn't just about revenge. It's about secrets buried by the school, a cover-up fueled by power, and a girl who refuses to stay silent any longer. When the system protects her attackers, Ariel decides to take justice into her own hands. So the question is, just how far will she go? Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Through the bustling halls of Crestwood High, Ariel Monroe moved like a shadow, her footsteps quiet against the polished floor. Her dark blue hoodie hung loose around her shoulders, and her neatly done braids swayed with each step. Around her, students clustered in their usual groups, their laughter and chatter filling the Monday morning air. She kept her eyes forward, carefully avoiding the stares that always seemed to follow her. Some were curious, others dismissive, but most just looked through her as if she were invisible. That was fine with her. Being invisible meant being left alone, and being left alone meant staying out of trouble. The AP English classroom door stood open, and Ariel slipped inside, making her way to her usual seat in the 3rd row. Not too front, not too back, just the right spot to blend in. She pulled out her worn copy of Their Eyes Were Watching God and placed it on her desk, along with her carefully completed homework assignment. "Good morning, Ariel," Mrs. Peterson said from her desk, not looking up from her computer screen. The teacher's tone was polite but distant, the kind of acknowledgement that came from obligation rather than genuine warmth. "Morning, Mrs. Peterson," Ariel responded softly, her voice barely carrying across the room. Other students filtered in, filling the classroom with the scraping of chair legs and the thud of backpacks hitting the floor. Madison and Taylor, 2 girls from the cheerleading squad, took their seats near the front, their matching blonde ponytails bouncing as they giggled over something on Madison's phone. Jake Thompson swaggered in just as the bell rang, his varsity jacket stretched across broad shoulders. He high-fived Chase Williams, who sat in front of Ariel, the movement sending a waft of expensive cologne her way. She kept her eyes on her book, but she could feel Jake's gaze lingering on her for a moment too long before he dropped into his seat 2 rows over. "All right, class," Mrs. Peterson stood up, smoothing her pencil skirt. "Let's discuss Chapter 7 of Their Eyes Were Watching God. Who can tell me about Janie's relationship with Joe Starks and how it reflects the theme of power?" Ariel knew the answer. She'd spent hours analyzing the chapter, filling the margins of her book with neat pencil notes. Her hand twitched, but stayed in her lap. Madison's hand shot up. "Well, Joe totally controls everything Janie does, right? He's basically super toxic." Mrs. Peterson nodded, though her smile tightened slightly. "That's one way to put it. Anyone else?" Ariel's fingers traced the edge of her desk. The words formed in her mind. Janie's submission to Joe represents the intersection of gender and power in the early 20th century South, where black women faced dual oppression. But she kept quiet. Speaking up meant drawing attention, and drawing attention meant, "Ariel," Mrs. Peterson's voice cut through her thoughts. "You've been very quiet. Would you like to share your thoughts?" 23 pairs of eyes turned toward her. She could feel the weight of their stares, the silent judgment, the unspoken questions about why she was even in an AP class. "I think," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "Hurston shows how power can corrupt relationships, especially when one person sees the other as property rather than a partner." A few students shifted in their seats. Jake coughed, a sound that might have been covering a laugh. Mrs. Peterson's eyebrows rose slightly. "Interesting perspective," the teacher said, already turning toward the whiteboard. "Now, let's look at the symbolism of the pear tree. The rest of class passed in a blur of discussion and note-taking. When the bell rang, Ariel gathered her things methodically, waiting for the initial rush of students to clear before standing up. "Nice answer earlier, Ropehead," Jake muttered as he passed her desk, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Ariel's jaw tightened, but she kept packing her bag, movements deliberate and controlled. The memory of her sensei's words echoed in her mind. Patience is not weakness. Control is not fear. The morning continued its usual pattern. In chemistry, her lab partner barely spoke 2 words to her while they completed their experiment. During history, she sat alone at her desk while others clustered in groups for the class discussion. At lunch, she found her usual quiet corner in the library, eating her sandwich while reading ahead for next week's assignments. When the time came for gym class, Ariel changed quickly in the locker room, keeping to herself as the other girls chatted and laughed. Coach Martinez had them running laps today, and Ariel fell into an easy rhythm, her feet steady against the track. Running was simple. Running made sense. 1 foot in front of the other, breath measured, mind clear. After class, she waited until most of the other girls had finished changing before heading back to the locker room. The space was almost empty now, the air heavy with the lingering smell of perfume and deodorant. Her duffel bag sat on the bench where she'd left it. But something was different. Ariel stopped, frowning slightly. The zipper was pulled halfway open, though she distinctly remembered closing it completely. She reached for the bag, her movements cautious, unaware that this small detail would mark the beginning of something much bigger than a simple case of tampering. Ariel zipped up her gym clothes and closed her locker with a soft click. The metal door's echo bounced off the empty walls of the locker room. Most students had already left for their next class, leaving behind only the fading scent of body spray and the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. She turned toward the exit, adjusting the strap of her backpack. Her steps faltered as 3 figures appeared in the doorway, blocking the only way out. Jake Dalton's varsity jacket stretched across his shoulders as he leaned against the doorframe, a plastic bottle dangling from his right hand. Chase Whitman's bulk filled most of the remaining space, his usual grin replaced by something harder. Behind them, Logan Reeves held up his phone, its camera lens pointed directly at her. "Well, well," Jake drawled, pushing off the frame. "Look who's all alone." Ariel's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her face neutral. She'd learned long ago that showing fear only made things worse. "I need to get to class." "Oh, we won't take long," Jake said, taking a step forward. He lifted the bottle, and Ariel's eyes locked onto the label. Bleach. "We just thought your hair could use some brightening up." Chase laughed, the sound bouncing off the lockers. "Yeah, those dirty ropes could use some cleaning." "Don't," Ariel said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. She took a step back, but Chase moved faster than she expected. His meaty fingers wrapped around her arms, shoving her against the cold metal lockers. "Hold still," Chase commanded, pressing harder. "This is for your own good." Logan adjusted his position, making sure to get a better angle with his phone. His face remained impassive behind the screen, like he was filming something as mundane as a school assembly. Jake unscrewed the cap, the sharp chemical smell filling the air. "Maybe this'll help you fit in better." He lifted the bottle above her head. "Though I doubt it." The first splash hit like ice water. Ariel gasped as the bleach soaked through her braids, the chemicals immediately beginning to burn her scalp. The acrid smell filled her nostrils as more bleach poured down, running along her neck and seeping into her shirt collar. "Stop!" she managed, but her voice came out as a whisper. Her scalp felt like it was on fire, each drop adding to the burning sensation. "What's that?" Jake leaned in closer, his breath hot against her ear. "Can't hear you over all this improvement happening." Chase's grip tightened as she instinctively tried to pull away. "Better thank us," he sneered. "This stuff ain't cheap." Logan zoomed in with his phone, capturing every detail of her humiliation. His silence somehow felt worse than Jake's taunts or Chase's laughter. The burning intensified. Bleach dripped down her face, forcing her to squeeze her eyes shut. Her carefully maintained braids, done by her grandmother's loving hands just last weekend, now hung heavy and soaked with chemicals. "There," Jake said, shaking the last drops onto her head. "Now maybe you won't look so— What's the word I'm looking for, Chase?" "Ghetto?" Chase supplied, finally releasing his grip. "That's it." Jake tossed the empty bottle into a nearby trash can. "Consider this a public service." He stepped back, admiring their work. "Come on, boys. Our good deed is done." Logan lowered his phone, but kept recording as they backed toward the door. "This'll make a great addition to the collection," he said, his first words since entering the room. "Don't worry," Jake called over his shoulder. "That burning means it's working." Their laughter echoed down the hallway long after they'd gone. Ariel stood frozen against the lockers, bleach dripping onto the floor around her feet. The chemical smell burned her nose, and her scalp felt like it was being stabbed with hundreds of tiny needles. Moving slowly, she grabbed paper towels from the dispenser and tried to blot the worst of it. But the damage was already done. In the mirror, she could see patches of her dark braids already starting to lighten, the bleach eating away at the color. The late bell rang, its sharp sound making her jump. She had to get out of here. Had to get home. Had to— Ariel gathered her things with shaking hands. Her shirt was soaked through in places, and every movement sent fresh waves of burning across her scalp. She pushed through the door and into the empty hallway, keeping her head down as she made her way to the school's exit. The walk to the bus stop felt like miles. A few students lingered outside, their conversations dying as she passed. She could feel their stares, hear their whispers, but she kept walking. The bus arrived right on schedule. Ariel climbed aboard, the familiar steps now feeling like a mountain climb. She slid into an empty seat near the back, gripping the edge until her knuckles turned white. Other students filed on, filling the seats around her. Some glanced her way, taking in her wet hair and the strong chemical smell, but they quickly turned away. No one sat next to her. No one asked if she was okay. They all just pretended not to see, like they always did. The bus lurched forward, and Ariel pressed her forehead against the cool window, trying to focus on anything except the burning in her scalp and the shame burning in her chest. The front door creaked as Ariel stepped into her grandmother's small but tidy house. The familiar scent of lemon furniture polish and fresh laundry usually brought comfort, but today it couldn't cut through the harsh chemical smell that clung to her. "Baby? Is that you?" Ms. Thelma's voice called from the kitchen. "You're home early." Her words cut off as she stepped into the hallway. The dish towel she'd been holding dropped to the floor. "Oh, Lord Jesus, what happened to you?" Ariel tried to speak, but her throat closed up. She'd held it together on the bus, through the walk home, but seeing her grandmother's face, the shock, the pain, the instant understanding, broke something inside her. Her voice cracked. "They poured bleach on me." The tears finally came, hot and unstoppable. Ms. Thelma moved fast for her age, crossing the space between them in seconds. She wrapped her arms around Ariel, ignoring the chemicals that soaked into her own clothes. "Who did this? Tell me everything." But Ariel could only shake her head, pressing her face into her grandmother's shoulder as sobs racked her body. The burning in her scalp had dulled to a constant ache, but the humiliation felt sharper than ever. "Okay, baby. Okay." Ms. Thelma's voice was steady, though her hands trembled slightly as she pulled back to examine Ariel's hair. "First things first. We need to wash this out before it does any more damage. Come on." She guided Ariel to the kitchen sink, grabbing the spray nozzle. "Lean over." The warm water felt like heaven against Ariel's burning scalp. Ms. Thelma worked quickly but gently, rinsing each braid thoroughly. It was Jake and his friends, Ariel finally managed between rinses. In the locker room, they filmed it. Ms. Thelma's hands paused for just a moment. "The Dalton boy?" Her voice was carefully controlled. "I taught his mama in 3rd grade. Never did learn respect, that family." After the 4th rinse, Ms. Thelma patted Ariel's hair with a clean towel. "Let me see the damage." She carefully examined the braids, her expression growing grimmer. "Some of these will have to come out. The bleach ate right through." They moved to the bathroom, where Ms. Thelma kept her hair supplies. The mirror showed what Ariel had been afraid to really look at. Patches of her dark braids now a sickly orange-yellow, the ends fraying and brittle. "I'm calling that school first thing tomorrow," Ms. Thelma said, as she began carefully unraveling the salvageable braids. "This isn't just some foolish prank. This is assault." "They won't do anything," Ariel whispered, watching another damaged braid fall to the bathroom floor. "They never do." "Then we'll make them do something." Ms. Thelma's scissors snipped carefully at a particularly damaged section. "Your daddy didn't raise a victim, and I surely didn't raise one either. We're going straight to Principal Stevens in the morning." Ariel closed her eyes, remembering Logan's phone pointed at her face. "They recorded it. They'll probably post it online." "Let them." Ms. Thelma's voice hardened. "That's just evidence of their guilt. Stupid enough to film their own crime? Well, ain't that just the Lord working in mysterious ways?" Despite everything, Ariel felt the smallest smile touch her lips. Her grandmother's unwavering strength had always been a comfort, even in the darkest moments. It took over an hour to deal with all the damage. By the end, about half of Ariel's braids had to be cut out completely. The rest hung unevenly, a patchwork of dark and light that told the story of the day's cruelty. "We'll fix the rest this weekend," Ms. Thelma promised, running her fingers gently through what remained. "For now, get cleaned up and try to rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Later that night, after a shower that finally washed away the last traces of bleach smell, Ariel stood in her bedroom. The house was quiet except for the soft sounds of her grandmother's favorite gospel program playing downstairs. She opened her closet door slowly, pushing aside hanging clothes until she found what she was looking for. The white PRODIGY was still crisp and clean, folded perfectly on its shelf. She hadn't worn it in months, not since. Her fingers found the belt next to it. Jet black, folded with precise care, each crease a reminder of years of discipline and training. She ran her hand across its smooth surface, remembering the day Sensei Jordan had presented it to her. For a long moment, she stood there, touching the fabric that represented so much of who she used to be. Then, quietly, she shut the closet door. The next morning, Ariel's hands shook as she buttoned her blouse. She'd spent half an hour trying to style what remained of her hair, finally settling on a head wrap that Ms. Thelma helped arrange. The mirror showed someone she barely recognized, someone whose confidence had been stripped away, along with her braids. "Ready, baby?" Ms. Thelma stood in the doorway, already dressed in her meeting clothes, a pressed navy dress and sensible shoes that commanded respect. She carried her old leather portfolio, the one she'd used during parent-teacher conferences in her teaching days. The drive to school was quiet. Ariel watched familiar houses pass by, each one bringing them closer to a confrontation she dreaded. Ms. Thelma's hands were steady on the wheel, but Ariel noticed how tightly she gripped it. "Remember," Ms. Thelma said as they pulled into the visitor parking spot, "you did nothing wrong. Hold your head high." The main office was already busy with morning activity. The secretary's smile faltered when she saw them, quickly reaching for her phone. "Assistant Principal Roberts will see you shortly." They waited 15 minutes before being called back. Mr. Roberts sat behind his desk, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who always seemed to be frowning. Jake, Chase, and Logan were already there with their parents, seated along one wall. "Mrs. Monroe," Mr. Roberts nodded to Thelma. "Ariel, please, have a seat." "That's Ms. Monroe," Thelma corrected firmly, settling into a chair. "And we're here about the assault on my granddaughter yesterday." "Yes, well," Mr. Roberts shuffled some papers. "We've already spoken with the other students involved. They tell quite a different story." Jake's mother, a woman in an expensive suit, cut in. "My son says your granddaughter has been hostile toward him for weeks, refusing to speak, giving dirty looks." "Excuse me?" Miss Thelma's voice could have frozen fire. "Are you suggesting my granddaughter deserved to have chemicals poured on her head because she didn't smile enough for your son?" "Now, let's all stay calm." Mr. Roberts raised his hands. "The boys admit there was an incident in the locker room, but they say it was just water, a harmless prank that got out of hand because Ariel became aggressive." "Water?" Ariel found her voice, disbelief making her speak up. "My braids were burned. I had chemical burns on my scalp." "Young lady," Mr. Roberts peered at her over his glasses, "your attitude right now is exactly what we're talking about. The boys say you've been uncooperative all year, refusing to participate in school spirit activities, keeping to yourself. Since when is being quiet a crime?" Ms. Thelma demanded. "Furthermore," Mr. Roberts continued as if she hadn't spoken, "the boys say you threatened them afterward. Something about making them pay?" Ariel's mouth fell open. "That's a lie. I never—" "We have witnesses," Chase's father spoke up. Other students who heard her. "Where's the video?" Ms. Thelma asked suddenly. The room went quiet. "My granddaughter says they filmed it. Where's that video?" Logan shifted in his seat, but his mother answered smoothly. "There is no video. These are just excuses to cover up her behavioral issues." Mr. Roberts nodded, picking up a form from his desk. "Given the conflicting accounts and Ariel's continued combative attitude, we're issuing a 3-day suspension for disruptive behavior and making threats." "You're suspending me?" Ariel felt like she couldn't breathe. "This is ridiculous." Ms. Thelma stood up. "These boys attacked my granddaughter, and you're punishing her for it? I want to speak to Principal Stevens." "Dr. Stevens is in meetings all day," Mr. Roberts said. "This decision is final. Ariel can return next Monday, assuming she's ready to cooperate better with her fellow students." The boys smirked as Ariel and her grandmother left the office. Jake's mother was already on her phone, probably calling their lawyer. Chase whispered something to Logan, and they both laughed. The drive home was even quieter than the drive to school. "Sid." Thelma's jaw was set in a way Ariel hadn't seen since her father's funeral. When they pulled into their driveway, neither moved to get out. "I'm filing a complaint with the school board," Ms. Thelma finally said. "This isn't over." But Ariel barely heard her. Something had shifted inside her during that meeting. Seeing those boys smile, watching their parents defend them, hearing the assistant principal twist everything around, it awakened something she'd been trying to keep buried. She spent the rest of the day in her room, barely touching the lunch Ms. Thelma brought up. By evening, she'd made a decision. "I'm going out for a bit," she called downstairs. Her grandmother looked up from her paperwork, concerned but understanding in her eyes. "Be careful," was all she said. The sun was setting as Ariel drove across town. The dojo's familiar storefront came into view. Jordan's Traditional Karate, written in simple letters above the door. The parking lot was half full. Evening classes would be starting soon. She pulled into a spot, but didn't get out immediately. Through the windows, she could see students warming up, their white GIs bright under the fluorescent lights. Sensei Jordan moved among them, making corrections, just like he had when she was there. Ariel gripped her steering wheel, remembering the last time she'd been here, the tournament, the fight, the reason she'd walked away. After a long moment, she reached for her door handle. It was time to stop running. The bell above the dojo's door chimed as Ariel stepped inside. The familiar smell of wood floors and sweat hit her immediately. Several students turned, their eyes widening in recognition. A few whispered to each other. She stood awkwardly by the entrance, her street clothes making her feel even more out of place. The evening class was just starting to line up, mostly teenagers and a few adults, all in crisp white uniforms. Sensei Jordan emerged from his office, clipboard in hand. He paused when he saw her, his expression unchanging except for the slightest lift of an eyebrow. Their eyes met across the room. After a moment, he gave her a single, deliberate nod. "Class, face front," he called out, breaking the tension. "Begin warm-ups." Ariel made her way to the changing room, her old locker still there with her name tape faded but readable. Inside her gym bag was her GI, freshly washed but wrinkled from storage. The black belt felt heavy in her hands. When she emerged, the class was doing jumping jacks. Without a word, she took her old spot in the back corner and joined in. Her body remembered the rhythm, the counting, the movements, the discipline of it all. "Push-ups," Sensei Jordan's voice carried across the dojo. "Down position. Hold." Ariel's arms trembled slightly as she held the plank. A year away had softened her muscles, but the strength was still there, buried beneath the surface. "Begin." She threw herself into each exercise with quiet intensity. Every push-up was Jake's smirk disappearing. Every squat was Chase's grip loosening. Every punch into the air was Logan's phone shattering. "Partner drills," Jordan announced. "Basics first." The other students paired up quickly, leaving Ariel alone. She expected this. She was the outsider again. But Sensei Jordan stepped onto the mat. "Show me your front kick," he said simply. Ariel took her stance. The movement felt rusty at first, but muscle memory took over. Kick after kick, her legs snapped out with increasing precision. Jordan held the pad steady, saying nothing, but she could feel his assessment in every impact. "Again," he said, whenever her form slipped even slightly. "Control. Power comes from focus, not anger." Her head wrap had started to come loose from the exertion. Sweat ran down her neck. The other students stole glances between their own drills. "Enough," Jordan finally said. He lowered the pad and looked at her directly. "Why are you here, Ariel?" She hesitated, conscious of the others listening. I need to remember something." "What's that?" "Who I am." Jordan studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded toward the heavy bag in the corner. 10 minutes. "Show me." Ariel approached the bag, her bare feet silent on the mat. She took her fighting stance, left foot forward, hands up, core tight. The bag hung there, waiting. Her first punch was tentative, the second less so. By the third, something broke loose inside her. She struck the bag with controlled fury, each hit precise, despite her rising intensity. Kicks followed. Punches followed elbow strikes. The chain rattled with every impact. She wasn't just hitting leather, she was hitting every dismissive look, every muttered insult, every moment she'd been told to smile and stay quiet. Jordan watched without comment, hands clasped behind his back. The other students had stopped their drills entirely now, but Ariel barely noticed them. She was lost in the rhythm of her own power. When Jordan finally called time, she was breathing hard but steady. Her GI was soaked with sweat. The head wrap had fallen completely, revealing her shortened, uneven hair. "Better," was all Jordan said, but his eyes held approval and warning. "Same time tomorrow?" "Yes, Sensei." Ariel bowed slightly. After changing, she sat in her car for several minutes, letting her racing heart slow down. Her phone buzzed with a text from Kaya, her best friend since middle school. "Girl, check your DMs. You need to see this." Ariel opened the message. There was a video link, and her stomach clenched as she recognized the thumbnail. The locker room. Someone had posted it online. With shaking fingers, she pressed play. The footage was shaky but clear. Her stunned face, the bleach splashing, the boys' laughter. Worse were the comments underneath. "LOL, guess she needed some highlights. Shoulda smiled more. Clean that mess up." Her hands tightened around the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. The phone kept buzzing with more messages from Kaya, but Ariel couldn't look away from the screen. There she was, frozen in that horrible moment, while strangers turned her humiliation into entertainment. Wednesday morning arrived with a heavy silence. Ariel sat at her grandmother's kitchen table, methodically spreading peanut butter on whole wheat toast. Her newly shortened hair was wrapped neatly beneath a dark blue headscarf, the ends tucked away with careful precision. "You sure you want to go today?" Thelma asked, watching her granddaughter from across the table. "We could fight this suspension." "I need to be there," Ariel said quietly. She took small, deliberate bites of her breakfast. "Need to see everything clearly." The bus ride to school felt different now. Ariel sat in her usual spot near the middle, but her posture had changed. Instead of shrinking away from the noise and chaos, she observed, she noticed how Jasmine, another black girl, kept her backpack clutched tight against her chest when certain boys passed by. How Marcus, one of the few Latino students, always sat alone despite the crowded seats. In her first class, AP Chemistry, Ariel pulled out a fresh notebook, not for taking notes, but for something else entirely. As the teacher droned on about molecular structures, she began writing in tiny, neat letters. September 15th, Maria S. sent to principal's office for attitude after correcting teacher's pronunciation of her name. October 3rd, David K., only Asian student in class, called too sensitive when reporting racist jokes. October 12th, dress code violations, 6 girls of color written up, 0 white girls despite similar outfits. Each memory surfaced with crystal clarity now that she was looking for them. The small indignities, the double standards, the silent signals that some students mattered less than others. During lunch, she sat alone by choice, continuing her list. Her phone buzzed occasionally with messages from Kaya, asking if she was okay, but Ariel stayed focused on her task. The cafeteria became her observation post. 11:42 a.m. Security guards follow Thompson twins, black freshmen, but ignore white students taking same route. 12:15 p.m. Jake, Connors, Chase. Connors, Logan throw food at Malik's table. No consequences. In English class, she added more entries. Teacher calls on white students 3x more often. Black students interrupted 8 times in 45 minutes. Essays about race inequality marked down for being too political. Between classes, she noticed things she'd previously trained herself to ignore. How certain teachers positioned themselves to watch specific students. How counselors steered some kids away from AP classes despite their grades. How casual cruelty went unchecked when it came from certain sources. After school, instead of heading straight home, Ariel went to the public library. She sat up at a quiet corner table and opened her laptop. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as she organized her observations into categories. She created spreadsheets, started timelines, added names, dates, witnesses. Years of stored-away incidents emerged from her memory, each one a pixel in a larger picture she was finally allowing herself to see. The library's fluorescent lights had begun to dim when she finally packed up. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from her grandmother, but also an email confirmation she'd been waiting for. Her request for past disciplinary records had been received by the district office. At home, Thelma had kept dinner warm: rice, black-eyed peas, and baked chicken. The familiar smells filled the kitchen as Ariel set her bag down and washed her hands. "You're late," Thelma said, but her tone was more concerned than angry. "Sorry, Grandma. I was at the library." They sat down together, saying grace as they always did. The routine felt comforting after such an intense day of observation and documentation. "How was school?" Thelma asked, passing the cornbread. "Different," Ariel replied, carefully choosing her words. "I saw things today. Really saw them." "What kind of things?" "Everything I used to pretend not to notice. Everything they count on us not talking about." Ariel pushed her peas around her plate. "Did you know they've suspended 43 students this year? 38 were black or brown." Thelma set down her fork. "How do you know that?" "I've been keeping track. Not just that. Everything. Every misunderstanding. Every attitude problem. Every time they turned victims into troublemakers." Ariel looked up at her grandmother. "They thought I was just going to take it, but I've already started planning." Thursday morning brought a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Ariel walked through Crestwood High's main hallway, her shortened hair now styled in a neat twist. She carried her documentation notebook close to her chest, watching, waiting. She spotted Devon Hill sitting alone at his usual spot in the cafeteria before first period. He hunched over his sketchbook, pencil moving in quick, angry strokes. Most students avoided him after last year's incident, when the administration had accused him of stealing from the art room, despite his perfect record and passionate denial. Ariel approached his table slowly, deliberately. "Devon?" He glanced up, eyes guarded. "Yeah? Can I sit?" Devon shrugged, but shifted his backpack to make room. Ariel settled into the chair across from him, noting how he angled his body away slightly, a habit she recognized from her own years of staying defensive. "I saw what they did to you," Devon said quietly, not looking up from his drawing. "With the bleach." "I know what they did to you, too," Ariel replied. "Last year, the art supplies." His pencil stopped moving. "That was different." "Was it?" Ariel opened her notebook. "They accused you without evidence, suspended you without investigation, made you out to be the troublemaker." Devon finally met her eyes. "How do you know all that?" "Because I've been watching, recording, everything they do to students like us." She slid the notebook toward him. "And I think you've been watching, too." Devon's expression shifted as he scanned her careful documentation. His shoulders straightened slightly. "Yeah," he admitted. "I keep track, too. In my head, mostly. Some in here." He tapped his sketchbook. "Show me?" He hesitated, then flipped through his book. Between detailed drawings were notes scribbled in margins, dates, names, incidents. Marcus got suspended for threatening behavior when he just asked why the teacher kept calling him Mexican when he's Salvadoran. Jasmine lost her spot on the debate team after questioning the coach's bias. "Tyler, I need it all," Ariel said. "Everything you've seen. Everyone who's been targeted." Devon studied her face. "Why now?" "Because they thought bleaching my hair would make me invisible. Instead, it made me see everything clearer." She leaned forward. "You know others who've been through this, don't you?" He nodded slowly. "Lunch block. Back corner by the vending machines. That's where most of us sit now." "Thank you," Ariel said, standing up. "And Devon? Your art's really good." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Your hair looks good, too. Different, but good." Throughout the day, Ariel visited the spots Devon mentioned. Between classes, she spoke quietly with students who'd been pushed to the margins. Maria from her chemistry class, the Thompson twins, Malik from the cafeteria. Each had a story. Each had been silenced. After school, Ariel headed to the Southside Community Center. She'd found Zaria Hughes's contact information through the local black community newsletter. The young journalist had written several pieces about discrimination in nearby school districts. The community center buzzed with after-school activities. Kids played basketball in the gym, while seniors gathered for bingo in the main hall. Ariel found Zaria in the small library, typing on a laptop decorated with social justice stickers. "Ms. Hughes?" Zaria looked up, her bright eyes sharp behind square-framed glasses. "Just Zaria is fine. You must be Ariel. Thank you for meeting me. Your email was specific." Zaria gestured to a chair. "You mentioned having evidence of systematic discrimination at Crestwood High." Ariel sat down, placing her notebook and phone on the table. "More than evidence. I have documentation, witnesses, and this." She pulled up the bleach attack video. Zaria's expression hardened as she watched. "They filmed it themselves. They wanted to humiliate me. Instead, they gave me proof. And the school suspended you, not them? That's just the beginning." Ariel opened her notebook. "I have dates, names, patterns. Other students are coming forward now. And one student, Devon. He's been keeping his own records." Zaria began taking notes on her laptop. "The school board has blocked my previous requests for disciplinary records. I've already filed for them through 3 different channels," Ariel said. "And I have screenshots of the official numbers they posted last year before taking them down." "You've done your homework," Zaria observed, clearly impressed. "They thought I would stay quiet, hide. But I'm a black belt in karate, and my sensei taught me something important. True strength isn't about attacking first. It's about knowing exactly when and how to strike back." Zaria set down her pen. "You understand that if we pursue this, they'll try to discredit you, paint you as an angry troublemaker?" "They already do that to all of us," Ariel replied calmly. "The difference is, now we have proof, and I'm done being invisible." "All right then." Zaria pulled out a recorder. "Let's start from the beginning. Tell me everything." Friday morning arrived with a heavy mist clinging to Crestwood High's brick walls. Ariel stepped off the bus, adjusting her backpack as whispers rippled through the crowd. Her shortened hair was styled in neat twists, each one a reminder of what they'd taken, and what they couldn't. "Look who's back," someone muttered. "Guess they had to let her return eventually," another voice added. Ariel kept her eyes forward, shoulders straight. The hallway seemed to part before her, not out of respect, but from students pulling away, as if her presence made them uncomfortable. Their laughter followed her like shadows. At her locker, she caught fragments of conversations. "She probably did something to deserve it. I heard she threatened them first. Why can't she just take a joke?" Her fingers paused on the combination lock. A year ago, these whispers would have made her shrink, try to disappear. Now, they just fueled her focus. She opened her locker, exchanged her books, and closed it with deliberate calm. In AP English, Logan Reeves sat 2 rows behind her, his presence like a cold draft. She could feel him watching, probably recording again. His phone was always ready, always waiting for moments of humiliation he could capture. During lunch, Ariel sat with Devon and the others she'd met yesterday. They formed a quiet circle in the cafeteria's back corner, sharing knowing looks as Jake, Chase, and Logan held court at their usual table. "They're talking about you again," Maria whispered, glancing over. "Let them," Ariel replied, opening her notebook. "They think they're safe behind their phones and their daddy's lawyers. They're not." After school, Ariel drove straight home. Her grandmother was working late at the hospital, giving her the privacy she needed. In her room, she pulled out her laptop and the notes her cousin Marcus had given her about cloud storage and backup recovery. Everything leaves a trail, he'd told her last summer during one of his visits from tech school, especially if people think they're too smart to get caught. She knew Logan used his phone like a weapon, documenting every cruel joke and attack. But he'd never expected anyone to think about where those videos went after he recorded them. Cloud storage was automatic these days, backing up every photo, every video, saving them in multiple places. Ariel opened her laptop and began following Marcus's instructions step by step. Logan's digital footprint wasn't hard to find. Like most bullies, he was careless with his power, leaving his social media public and his usernames consistent across platforms. Her fingers moved steadily across the keyboard, using the tricks Marcus had shown her to access cloud backups. Logan's overconfidence made it almost too easy. He used the same password variations everywhere, never bothering with two-factor authentication. The first folder she cracked open made her breath catch. Dozens of videos, all neatly dated and labeled. She clicked on one from 2 months ago. Jake and Chase cornering Marcus Johnson by the gym, mocking his speech impediment while Logan filmed. Another from last semester, the three of them following Maria to her car, making racist jokes about her family while she tried to unlock her door with shaking hands. Video after video showed the same pattern. Calculated cruelty, always filmed, always saved. Logan had created a digital trophy case of their attacks, never imagining it could be used against him. Then she found it. A folder labeled Special Collection. Inside were videos with racial slurs as titles, messages discussing future pranks that sounded more like threats, and group chats where they planned their attacks. The Bleach attack video was there too, but with added commentary. Watch this one cry. Taught her to respect her betters. Next time we'll really make her regret it. Ariel's hands remained steady as she downloaded everything, copying the files to secure drives just as Marcus had taught her. Each video was a link in a chain of evidence, each message another nail in their coffin of accountability. Her phone buzzed, a text from Zaria. Got those disciplinary records you requested. The numbers don't lie. Meeting tomorrow? Ariel looked at her screen, now filled with proof of everything they'd done, everything they thought they could hide. She typed back, "Yes, and I have something to show you. They've been documenting their own crimes all along." She closed her laptop, feeling the weight of what she'd discovered. They had thought their phones made them powerful. Instead, their arrogance had given her exactly what she needed. Their own words and actions, recorded by their own hands, saved where they thought no one would ever look. The sun was setting outside her window, casting long shadows across her room. In the fading light, she could see her reflection in the mirror. Shorter hair, straight spine, eyes clear and focused. They had tried to break her spirit with that bleach. Instead, they had only revealed their own poison. Monday morning arrived with an unusual tension in the air. Students clustered in tight groups, whispering as they passed the guidance office. Inside, Ariel sat straight-backed in an uncomfortable plastic chair, her grandmother beside her. Assistant Principal Harris adjusted his tie. "Now, we've arranged this mediation to help everyone move forward. These kinds of misunderstandings between students need to be resolved professionally." Jake, Chase, and Logan filed in with their parents. Jake's father, a local business owner, wore an expensive suit and an impatient expression. Chase's mother kept checking her phone. Logan's parents sat rigid and stone-faced. "Before we begin," Harris continued, "I want to remind everyone that the goal here is reconciliation. We're looking for apologies and forgiveness on all sides." Ariel's grandmother squeezed her hand. They had planned for this moment. "I'd like to speak first," Ariel said quietly. Harris nodded, clearly relieved. "Of course. That's very mature of you. Ariel stood, walked to the front of the room, and pulled out a USB drive. I prepared something to help everyone understand exactly what happened. Before anyone could object, she plugged it into the computer connected to the room's projector. The screen flickered to life. The video started playing. Crystal clear footage showed Jake, Chase, and Logan surrounding her in the locker room. Their voices rang out, cruel and confident. "Hold her still! Bet it burns out the ghetto!" The sound of laughter mixed with the splash of bleach. Gasps filled the room. Chase's mother covered her mouth. Logan's father half rose from his chair. "Turn that off immediately!" Jake's father demanded. But Ariel didn't stop there. More videos played. Other incidents. Other victims. The group chat messages appeared on screen, showing their planning, their slurs, their threats against other students. "This isn't just about me," Ariel said, her voice steady. "This is about every student you've hurt, every attack you've hidden, every time the school looked the other way." Assistant Principal Harris fumbled for words. This isn't appropriate for—" "What's not appropriate," Ariel's grandmother cut in, "is how you suspended my granddaughter while protecting these boys. What's not appropriate is calling assault a misunderstanding." Jake's face had turned red. "You can't prove—" "Actually," Ariel interrupted, "I can. Every video here came from Logan's cloud storage. Every message is dated and authenticated. And Ms. Hughes from the Chronicle has copies of everything." Logan's face went pale. His parents turned to stare at him. "You're lying," Chase stammered, but his voice shook. Ariel played another clip, Chase and Jake following Maria to her car, making threats. "Am I?" The room erupted into chaos. Parents demanded answers. Harris tried desperately to regain control. Through it all, Ariel stood calmly by the projector, letting the truth speak for itself. "This meeting is over," Jake's father announced, standing up. "We'll be speaking to our lawyers." "Good idea," Ariel's grandmother replied. "So will we." As they left the office, students in the hallway stared through the windows. Word had already started spreading. Phones buzzed with messages and notifications. By lunch, the whole school was talking. Groups of students huddled around phones, watching clips that had somehow leaked online. Jake, Chase, and Logan were nowhere to be seen. Their parents had taken them home. Ariel sat with Devin and Maria in the cafeteria. Other students kept glancing their way, but the looks were different now. No more mockery, no more whispers of blame. "My cousin sent me Zaria's article," Devin said, holding up his phone. "It's everywhere." The Chronicle's headline read, "Pattern of Racial Harassment Exposed at Crestwood High." Below it, Zaria had laid out everything. The disciplinary records showing racial bias, the videos, the testimonies from other students. The story was spreading across social media, picking up momentum with every share. Maria squeezed Ariel's hand. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," Ariel corrected her. "Everyone who spoke up, everyone who shared their story. We did this together." Throughout the afternoon, Ariel's phone kept buzzing with notifications. Students she'd never spoken to sent messages of support. Local news stations were calling the school. The district superintendent's office released a statement, promising a full investigation. As the final bell rang, Ariel walked to her car through a changed school. The same halls that had echoed with mockery now hummed with different conversations. "Did you see what they did? I can't believe they got away with it for so long. Someone finally stood up to them." At home that evening, Ariel sat with her grandmother on their front porch, watching the sunset. Her phone kept lighting up with new notifications as the story spread further. "You know they won't go down without a fight," her grandmother said softly. Ariel nodded, watching another news alert pop up on her screen. The truth was out now, spreading faster than anyone could contain it. but she knew better than to celebrate too early. Jake's father had money and influence. Logan's family had connections. They wouldn't accept defeat easily. Tuesday morning arrived with an eerie silence. Ariel checked her phone as she got ready for school, frowning when she couldn't find Zaria's article. The link now led to an error page. She tried searching for the video clips. Nothing. Her grandmother called from the kitchen. "Baby, come look at this." On their small TV, a local news anchor was speaking. The Chronicle has retracted yesterday's story about alleged racial incidents at Crestwood High, citing potential legal concerns. The paper's editor issued an apology for unsubstantiated claims. Ariel's hands tightened around her coffee mug. "They're erasing it." "Money talks," her grandmother said quietly. "And those families have plenty of it." At school, the atmosphere had shifted again. Students who'd been outspoken yesterday now avoided eye contact. The hallway chatter was muted, cautious. Devon caught up with her before first period. "They're everywhere, taking down posts, threatening lawsuits. Jake's dad has some big-shot lawyer firm sending cease and desist letters to anyone who shared the videos." "What about your cousin's copies?" Ariel asked. "Got scared and deleted everything. His mom can't afford legal trouble." In English class, Ariel noticed empty seats where Jake, Chase, and Logan usually sat. Their absence felt like a warning rather than a victory. During lunch, Maria slid into the seat next to her, speaking in hushed tones. "My parents got a letter this morning. Some lawyer saying I could be sued for defamation if I keep talking about what happened in the parking lot." Ariel's phone buzzed. A text from Zaria. "I'm so sorry. They threatened the paper with a massive lawsuit. Editor pulled the story. They're saying my sources weren't credible." One by one, the evidence was disappearing. Social media posts vanished. Video links died. Comments sections were scrubbed clean. It was like Monday had never happened. Between classes, Ariel overheard two teachers talking. "Did you see the email from the superintendent?" "Yes." "Indefinitely postponing the investigation until all legal matters are resolved." Assistant Principal Harris passed her in the hall, wearing a smug smile. He'd been right after all. Money and power were making everything disappear. By sixth period, even the school's security cameras had mysteriously malfunctioned during the time frame of the locker room incident. The system needed routine maintenance, according to the announcement. Ariel sat in calculus, watching her classmates pretend nothing had changed. Yesterday's brave faces were replaced by careful silence. The same old pattern. Speak up, get threatened, back down, stay quiet. The final bell rang. Students rushed to leave, eager to escape the tension. Ariel took her time, walking to her locker with measured steps. She spun the combination lock, opened the metal door, and a folded piece of paper fluttered to the floor. Picking it up, she unfolded it carefully. The message was typed, no fingerprints to trace. "Stay quiet, or next time it's acid." Ariel stared at the words for a long moment. Then, without changing expression, she closed her locker. Her eyes narrowed. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through Crestwood High's windows. Most students had already left, but Ariel stayed late to make up a test she'd missed during her suspension. As she walked down the empty hallway, voices echoed from around the corner. "Look at all this hair! What do you even call this mess?" Laughter followed. Ariel recognized Jake's voice immediately. Her muscles tensed. "Please, just let me go." The voice was small, frightened. Ariel peered around the corner. Jake, Chase, and Logan had surrounded a younger girl, Jamila Carter, a freshman she'd seen in the library. Jamila's natural curls bounced as she tried to back away, but Chase blocked her path. "We're just trying to help," Logan sneered, reaching for Jamila's hair. "Maybe it needs some special treatment, like Monroe's did." Jamila clutched her books tighter to her chest. "I didn't do anything to you." "Existing is enough," Jake said, shoving her shoulder. Her books crashed to the floor. This school used to have standards, you know? Ariel's fists clenched so tight, her nails dug into her palms. Her breath came in controlled bursts, just like Sensei Jordan taught her. Each muscle in her body screamed to move. "Pick those up," Chase ordered Jamila, kicking one of her books further away. Jamila knelt down, trembling. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she reached for the scattered papers. "Hurry up!" Logan kicked another book. "Dance for us!" The boys laughed again, circling her like vultures. Jake pulled out his phone, already recording. Ariel watched Jamila's hands shake as she gathered her things. The girl's fear was familiar, the same terror Ariel had felt in the locker room, the same helplessness that had haunted her for days. Her mind flashed to the acid threat in her locker, to the deleted videos, to the silenced witnesses, to every time she'd stayed quiet, thinking it would keep her safe. But Jamila wasn't her. Jamila was younger, more vulnerable. The kind of target these boys would never stop hunting unless someone made them stop. Ariel's body moved before her mind could hesitate. She stepped around the corner, footsteps silent from years of training. Back away from her. Her voice cut through their laughter like steel. The boys spun around. Jake's smirk widened. "Well, look who it is. Missing your bleach treatment?" I said back away. Ariel moved closer, positioning herself between them and Jamila. "Or what?" Chase stepped forward, trying to use his height to intimidate her. "Gonna cry to the principal again?" "Jamila," Ariel said without taking her eyes off the boys, "get your things and go." "But," Jamila started. "Now!" They heard scrambling as Jamila gathered her books. Logan tried to block her path, but Ariel shifted her stance, a subtle movement that made him step back instinctively. "Run home to Grandma," Jake taunted as Jamila's footsteps faded, "before we decide to fix your attitude problem permanently." Ariel didn't move. Her breathing remained steady, measured. Years of training had taught her the difference between anger and focus. This wasn't rage driving her actions. It was clarity. "You're done hurting people," she said quietly. "Or what?" Chase laughed. "Your lawyer friend's gonna sue us?" "Oh, wait. They all backed down, didn't they?" Jake raised his phone, still recording. "Maybe we should finish what we started. Show everyone what happens when you don't learn your place." The three boys moved closer, confident in their power, their money, their protection. They'd never faced real consequences. Never had their actions truly challenged. Ariel saw it all clearly now. The pattern would never break unless someone broke it. The cycle would continue, finding new victims, creating new Jamilas, new Ariels, new stories buried under threats and money. "Last warning," she said softly. "Walk away." They lunged. Ariel's body moved with the fluid precision of countless practiced forms. She didn't think about the moves. They simply happened, muscle memory taking over where conscious thought ended. A sweep took Logan's legs out. A block deflected Chase's grab. A precise strike sent Jake stumbling back, his phone clattering across the floor. The boys recovered quickly, anger replacing their shock. They attacked again, 3 against 1. But Ariel wasn't fighting. She was executing a kata, each movement flowing into the next. Block, strike, redirect. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. "Power isn't about who's strongest, baby. It's about who knows when to use their strength." When it was over, all 3 boys lay groaning on the floor. No permanent damage, but plenty of bruised egos. Jake's phone had recorded everything. Ariel walked away without a word, leaving them to their shame. Hours later, she knelt on the familiar mat of Sensei Jordan's dojo. The midnight air was still and cool. Her GI was damp with sweat from hours of practice, but her breathing remained steady. She heard the soft footsteps of her grandmother entering the dojo. Thelma didn't speak, didn't disturb her meditation. She simply watched her granddaughter, perfectly still, perfectly centered, perfectly at peace with what needed to be done. The charity event's decorations cast strange shadows across Crestwood High's hallways. Paper stars and streamers hung from the ceiling, swaying gently in the air conditioning. Most students wouldn't arrive for another hour, but Ariel had come early, walking the familiar corridors with purpose. She'd spent the last 2 days watching, waiting. The video of her defending Jamila had spread through private messages, but the boys' families had quickly suppressed it. Their lawyers sent more threats. The principal called it unfortunate roughhousing. Nothing changed, except something had changed. The fear was gone. Ariel moved silently, her footsteps absorbed by the thin carpet that lined the administrative wing. The building felt different at night, more honest somehow, stripped of its daytime pretenses. No fake smiles from teachers who looked the other way. No whispered jokes from students too afraid to speak up. A crash echoed from the science wing, followed by muffled laughter. Ariel's pace quickened. "Come on, just smile for the camera." Jake's voice carried through the empty hallway. "We're trying to be friendly." "Please?" Jamila's voice trembled. "I'm supposed to help set up." "But we're so interested in your culture," Logan said with fake sincerity. "Tell us about your hair. Does it always look this wild?" Ariel rounded the corner. The scene was painfully familiar. Jamila pressed against the wall, clutching a box of decorations. Jake filming with his phone, Chase blocking her escape. Logan circling like a shark. "Maybe we should help tame it," Chase suggested, reaching for Jamila's curls. "I think I saw some cleaning supplies in the janitor's closet." Jamila flinched away, tears streaming down her face. The box of decorations slipped from her hands, scattering paper stars across the floor. "Pick those up," Jake ordered, zooming in with his phone. "And this time, try smiling. You people are always so angry." Ariel had seen enough. Her steps were measured, deliberate. The boys didn't notice her approach until she was almost upon them. "Well, look who's back for more," Logan smirked, turning to face her. "Didn't learn your lesson about interfering?" Chase cracked his knuckles. "Maybe we should teach both of them some manners." "Your parents can't protect you forever," Jake added, still filming. "Neither can your little karate tricks." Ariel moved between them and Jamila. Her stance was relaxed but ready, every muscle coiled with potential energy. Years of training had taught her that true power came from stillness, from the moment just before motion. "This ends tonight." She dropped into a fighting stance, her body automatically finding its center. Jake lunged first, predictable in his rage. Ariel sidestepped smoothly, letting his momentum carry him past. Her movements were fluid, precise. Nothing like the wild swings he expected. "Stand still!" he growled, spinning around for another charge. But Ariel wasn't there anymore. She'd shifted position, maintaining perfect distance. The hallway became her dojo, the fluorescent lights her spotlights. Time seemed to slow as her training took over. Chase came at her from the side, trying to grab her arms. She dropped low, executing a perfect sweep that sent him sprawling. His bulk worked against him. He hit the ground hard, stars scattering beneath his fall. Logan hung back, still filming with trembling hands. "Get her!" he shouted, voice cracking. "She's just one girl." Jake and Chase attacked together this time. Ariel breathed deeply, centered herself. Jake's punch whistled past her ear as she weaved. Chase's grab met empty air. Her counterstrikes were controlled, precise. A knife hand block followed by a front kick that sent Jake staggering backward. "Stop moving!" Chase bellowed, charging like a bull. Ariel pivoted, using his own force against him. A simple hip throw sent him flying into the wall of lockers. The crash echoed through the empty hallway. Behind her, Jamila gasped. Logan finally dropped his phone, pulling something from his pocket. A small canister. Pepper spray. His hand shook as he aimed it. "I'll blind you," he threatened. "I swear I will." Ariel moved before he could blink. 2 quick steps closed the distance. Her hand shot out, gripping his wrist. Pressure on the right point made his fingers spring open. The canister clattered to the floor, and she kicked it away. "That's assault!" Logan screamed, trying to pull free. "You're attacking us!" "No," Ariel said calmly. "I'm defending." She twisted his arm, not enough to break, just enough to control, and guided him face first into the carpet. Jake had recovered, wiping blood from his nose. "You're dead," he snarled. "When my father hears about this—" "When everyone hears about this," Ariel corrected. She could see students gathering at both ends of the hallway now, phones raised. The truth this time. He charged again, all technique abandoned in fury. Ariel met him with textbook precision. Block, strike, sweep. Movements she'd practiced thousands of times. Jake landed hard beside Logan. The wind knocked from his lungs. Chase was the last one standing, but his confidence had crumbled. He looked from his fallen friends to Ariel's steady stance, fear replacing arrogance in his eyes. "Stay back," he warned, raising his hands. "I don't want to hurt you." "That's new," Ariel replied. She held her position, ready but not aggressive. 3 years of watching you hurt people. Now you're worried about it? He glanced at the growing crowd, then back to her. "This isn't fair," he protested. 3 against 1. We weren't ready." "Was Jamila ready?" Ariel's voice carried down the hallway. "Was I ready in the locker room?" Chase made his choice. He rushed forward, trying to use his size to overwhelm her. Ariel moved like water around his grasp, redirecting his energy. One precise throw sent him tumbling over Jake and Logan. All 3 boys tangled together on the floor. Security finally burst through the crowd, whistles blowing. Mr. Patterson, the head of security, reached for his radio. "We need administration down here now. We have a situation." "We certainly do," Ariel agreed, maintaining her stance but not moving. She could hear the murmur of voices, see the phones still recording. Everything was in the open now, under the harsh fluorescent lights. Vice Principal Warner pushed through the gathered students, face flushed. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "Ms. Monroe, step away from those boys immediately." "I don't think so," someone called from the crowd. It was Devon, phone steady in his hands. "We all saw what happened. We got it all on video." "This was self-defense," another voice added. More students nodded, holding up their phones. The vice principal's expression shifted from anger to calculation. "This is a serious matter," she said carefully. "Everyone involved will need to come to my office." "No," Ariel said simply. She hadn't moved, hadn't raised her voice, but power filled that single word. No more private meetings, no more cover-ups. Everything in the open now. The boys were finally struggling to their feet, helped by security guards. Jake's nose was still bleeding. Chase couldn't seem to meet anyone's eyes. Logan searched frantically for his phone among the scattered decorations. "You attacked us," Jake tried, but the words sounded hollow even to him. "She just went crazy and—" "We saw you corner Jamila," someone interrupted. "We saw everything." "The truth," Ariel said again, finally relaxing her stance. She turned to help Jamila up, gathering some of the fallen stars. "That's all I ever wanted. Just the truth." Security guards moved to separate everyone as more staff arrived, but it was too late for damage control. Dozens of phones had captured every moment, every strike, every admission. The hallway buzzed with voices sharing videos, sending messages, spreading what they'd witnessed. The school board meeting room buzzed with tension. Every seat was filled, with people standing along the walls and spilling into the hallway. Camera crews from local stations jostled for position near the front. Ariel sat in the second row beside her grandmother, both dressed in their Sunday best, backs straight and faces composed. 3 rows behind them, Jake, Chase, and Logan huddled with their parents and lawyers. Their usual swagger had vanished, replaced by nervous glances and whispered consultations. The boys wore suits that couldn't hide their bruises or their fear. Zaria Hughes sat near the press section, notebook open, pen ready. She caught Ariel's eye and gave a slight nod. The truth was about to have its day. Board President Marcus Thompson called the meeting to order, his gavel cutting through the murmurs. Due to recent events and overwhelming public interest, this emergency session will address serious allegations of racial discrimination and violence at Crestwood High School. Principal Stevens shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Thompson continued. We have reviewed extensive evidence, including multiple video recordings, witness statements, and a disturbing pattern of similar incidents that were inadequately addressed. Jake's father stood up, straightening his expensive tie. My son and his friends were attacked. There's video of that too. Sir, Thompson interrupted, please wait to be recognized before speaking. He shuffled some papers. And yes, we've seen that video as well, along with the earlier recording of your son and his friends assaulting Ms. Monroe with bleach, and Ms. Watson with threats, and Mr. Robinson last semester. Shall I continue? The lawyer tugged Jake's father back into his seat. Thompson turned to Principal Stevens. Would you like to explain why none of these incidents resulted in appropriate disciplinary action? Stevens cleared his throat. We handled each situation according to established protocols. By suspending the victims, Zaria called out from her seat. Several people murmured in agreement. Order, please, Thompson said, but his tone lacked conviction. He faced the principal again. We've reviewed your protocols. They show a clear pattern of bias against minority students. Care to explain that? Instead of answering, Stevens reached into his briefcase and withdrew an envelope. I believe this will simplify matters, he said quietly, sliding it across the table. My resignation, effective immediately. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Ariel felt her grandmother's hand squeeze hers. Thompson accepted the envelope with a curt nod. As for the 3 students involved in these attacks, he fixed Jake, Chase, and Logan with a stern look. The board has voted unanimously for immediate expulsion. Furthermore, we are forwarding all evidence to the district attorney's office for review of possible criminal charges. You can't do this, Chase's mother shrieked, jumping to her feet. They're just boys. They're futures. They're futures. Thelma Monroe's voice cut through the chaos like steel. She stood slowly, dignity in every movement. What about my granddaughter's future? What about every child they terrorized? When did their futures stop mattering? Silence fell across the room. Even the cameras stopped whirring for a moment. Thompson cleared his throat. Mrs. Monroe is correct. This board failed in its duty to protect all students equally. Therefore, we are also announcing a comprehensive civil rights review of all disciplinary policies and procedures to be conducted by an independent commission. Zaria's pen flew across her notebook as Thompson listed the changes. Mandatory bias training for all staff, a new system for reporting and tracking incidents, regular reviews of disciplinary statistics, and a clear zero-tolerance policy for racial harassment. Additionally, he continued, all prior disciplinary actions against Ms. Monroe and other affected students will be expunged from their records. We cannot undo the harm that was done, but we can ensure it stops here. The boys and their parents stormed out, lawyers in tow, ignoring the reporter's questions. Principal Stevens slipped out a side door, head down. But most people stayed, watching as the board members signed the official documents making everything official. Afterward, reporters swarmed around Ariel, microphones thrust forward. "How does it feel? Will you press charges? Do you have a statement?" Ariel looked at them calmly. "Justice isn't about feeling good," she said quietly. "It's about making things right. That's all I wanted." She turned away from the cameras, taking her grandmother's arm. They drove home in peaceful silence as the sun set behind them. The porch lights were on, casting a warm glow across their front steps. Thelma went inside and came back with 2 steaming mugs of chamomile tea, her special honey and lemon blend. They settled into their usual spots, Thelma in her carved wooden rocker, Ariel on the porch swing. Cricket songs filled the evening air. The weight that had pressed on them for so long seemed to lift with each sip of tea. "You know what I'm proudest of?" Thelma asked after a while. Ariel looked up from her mug. "What's that?" "You never lost yourself. You stayed disciplined, controlled, used your strength to protect, not just punish." She smiled. "That's real power." Ariel nodded, watching the steam rise from her tea. The air felt different tonight. Lighter. Like after a storm passes, when everything is washed clean and new. They sat together, grandmother and granddaughter, drinking tea and listening to the crickets sing about justice. The afternoon sun streamed through the dojo's windows, casting long shadows across the training mats. Ariel adjusted her black belt, making sure it lay perfectly straight. Behind her, a dozen young girls sat in neat rows, their eyes wide with anticipation. Most wore street clothes. This wasn't about formal training, but something more urgent. Jamila sat in the front row, her natural curls framing a face that now held confidence instead of fear. She'd been the first to sign up when Ariel proposed the class. Now she helped arrange the younger girls, showing them how to sit properly. "Remember," Ariel began, her voice soft but clear, "self-defense isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting yourself and staying safe." She scanned the faces before her. Black girls, brown girls, Asian girls, all carrying the same watchful look she once had. "First, we'll learn awareness." Ariel demonstrated a ready stance. "Sometimes the best defense is seeing trouble before it starts." The girls mimicked her position. Some giggled nervously, others frowned in concentration. Ariel walked between them, making small corrections to their stances. "Keep your head up," she told a tiny girl with braids like she used to wear. "You have every right to look the world in the eye." From his spot near the wall, Sensei Jordan watched silently, arms crossed. He'd given Ariel full permission to use the dojo for these classes, recognizing something in her that went beyond martial arts, a desire to break the cycle of fear. "Now," Ariel continued, "let's practice getting away from grabs." She gestured to Jamila, who stood to help demonstrate. "Most times you don't need fancy moves. You need to be smart and quick." The girls paired up, practicing simple but effective escape techniques. Ariel moved among them, offering guidance and encouragement. When one girl became frustrated after several failed attempts, Ariel knelt beside her. "It's okay to mess up here," she said gently. "That's how we learn to get it right when it matters." The girl nodded and tried again. This time she broke free perfectly. "Yes," Ariel praised. "See? You're stronger than you think." As the class progressed, Ariel noticed changes in their faces. Fear giving way to determination, uncertainty replaced by purpose. These were the same transformations she'd gone through, but now she was helping others find their power sooner. Near the end of class, Ariel gathered them in a circle. "Being strong doesn't mean you're looking for trouble," she explained. "It means trouble better think twice before finding you." The girls nodded seriously. One raised her hand. "Did you feel scared? When those boys—" "Yes," Ariel answered honestly. "But being scared doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. What matters is what you do with that fear. From the doorway, Thelma Monroe watched her granddaughter teach. She saw echoes of her own mother, a civil rights activist who'd taught her that dignity was a form of defense. Now Ariel carried that legacy forward in her own way. "Last thing," Ariel said, standing tall, "we're going to practice our voices. Being loud can be as powerful as any move." She led them through a series of shouts, firm, clear, no commands that filled the dojo. Some girls were shy at first, but soon they were all projecting with confidence. The sound brought a smile to Sensei Jordan's usually stoic face. He'd seen Ariel grow from a quiet child into someone who knew exactly when to break her silence. As the class wound down, the girls bowed to Ariel, then to each other. Several hugged her before leaving, their eyes shining with newfound strength. Jamila was the last student to go, pausing at the door. "Same time next week?" she asked hopefully. Ariel nodded. "Every week, as long as anyone needs it." After the girls left, Ariel turned to face Sensei Jordan. She bowed deeply, showing respect not just for his teaching, but for his wisdom in letting her find her own path to healing. Her grandmother stepped forward from the back of the dojo, pride evident in every line of her face. "They poured bleach on your braids," she said softly. "But baby, they only strengthened your roots." Ariel smiled, bowed once more, and stepped into the sun. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please like the video and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.